I did not start this church. God started this church and used me as his instrument, and this is the way he did it. I was flying with Memphis as my layover spot for the night. The day was long with many legs, the weather was rotten, delays piled up, and I had a mechanical problem to boot. We arrived late in Memphis and were informed by the agent that our normal layover hotel was being redone, and they sent us to a Howard Johnson's way out in the boondocks. No restaurant, nothing but a machine for coffee and candy. It was late, I was tired, and drank a half a cup of terrible coffee and went to sleep. In the morning, I swung my legs out of bed. I knocked the phone book off the coffee table with the coffee on top of it, and the phone book, dripping in ugly coffee, opened to the yellow pages with the advertisement of the First Presbyterian Church, the Reverend Dr. Knox, pastor, and the phone number. So I called, and the secretary put me through to Reverend Knox immediately. And without much ado, I launched into, "Sir, my name is Don Wright. I'm a captain with American Airlines on an overnight in Memphis. I live in New London, New Hampshire. Could you help me with some information?" "Sure," he replied. I said, "My wife and I are Presbyterians and have several friends that are Presbyterians. What do we have to do to crank up a Presbyterian church in our area?" He did hesitate a bit. Looking back, I imagine that he thought he was dealing with a kook. He did take my name and said someone would contact me. Somebody called later with the name and address of a person to make contact with in the Northern New England Presbytery. I wrote a letter, and I heard nothing for 2 months. When Jane Wick called me from Manchester and said she was the new executive presbyter for Northern New England Presbytery, and that she would like me to come down and talk about my request. I did. We had a pleasant conversation. She asked how she could be of service. I explained that the area could use a Presbyterian church. "How do you think churches begin?" she queried. I replied that a group of like-minded folks banded together and the Presbyterian took over. "How else would an organization begin? How does the church begin a new congregation?" I asked in a rather simplistic way. "Well," she replied, "first a demographic study is made, a task force is appointed, and the presbytery appoints a stated supply to fill the pulpit. Then applications are made to the Senate for financing." "How long does that take?" I asked, and she said 2 to 4 years. "When would you start doing your way?" she asked with a smile. I replied that with the help of the church, I figured that maybe a couple of weeks. She said, "Go for it." So I put an ad in the shopper, secured the library at Colby Sawyer College for an exploratory meeting. 14 local people showed up, about 30 folks from other Presbyterian churches and several pastors for support, and we got off to a rip-snorting start. James Wick said at the end of the meeting, "If I could find a place to meet and pay for a minister at $25 a Sunday and travel expenses, she would supply a pastor till I cried uncle." I arranged the use of the snack bar and the Performing Arts Center at Colby Sawyer College on Sunday mornings. Jane supplied the pastors until the Presbyterian Church appointed George Pomeroy as stated supply, and we worked with a fellow by the name of Jack Bailey from Senate to secure the funds needed to continue. We never cried uncle, and here we are today, a vibrant congregation and church.